So how do you do a Patrick Mahomes haircut? We're about to get started. The first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and skin them out. So typically whenever I make my first guideline, I begin with the trimmer in this direction. But whenever people already have short hair, I like to go with the opposite side of the blade. That way it's gonna create a softer line that's not gonna be too hard for me to get out. And one of the main things that I'm noticing already, this area is a little bit lighter, so I wanna keep that as dark as possible. And this back area on most people, it's always the darkest. So this is where I'm going to be spreading my blend a little bit more within the back area. And just to be able to make the fade pop out a little bit more, I'm going to be going in with the beveled shaver just to be able to get it all the way down to skin. A lot of people like to call these guidelines, but I actually like to call them sections. Whenever you call it a guideline, then you're under the impression that you're going to be making lines and having to erase those lines. But if we call them a section, then you understand that you're going to be making one area and have to fade within that area. So that's why throughout this whole fade tutorial, you're going to hear me say section. So this is my first section that I created with the blade with the lever all the way open. Notice how in the back, I am spreading the blend a little bit more. I'm spreading out the section wider. I said at the beginning, this front area by his temple is a little bit lighter. So in order to keep that darker, I want to keep the front section compressed more so we can leave it darker. And that way, whenever we go to put an edge in, it's going to pop out that much more. So now starting to fade out the first section, I'm starting with my lever all the way closed. And as I go up within the section, I'm going to be opening the lever one notch at a time. What this is going to allow me to do is really going to allow me to take out the bottom line. And at the same time, it's going to create gradiency within that section. And notice how in the back, I'm not using the full blade anymore. I don't have the full blade resting like this. I'm only having it tilted out a little bit, and only like the first 3 teeth are actually touching the scalp. By only utilizing the corner of the blade, I'm able to get it within the small sections. And by the time I make it all the way to the top of this section, my lever is pretty much all the way open now. And that's essentially what we started out with. So now I can begin creating my next section with my number 1 guard with the lever all the way open. And we're gonna be going about 1/2 inch above the bottom section as well, really making sure that I spread out the blend towards the back area. Main thing back here that I don't want to do though is I don't want to end up going into his curls. I want to stay right below them. And as soon as I create that second section, I'm closing my lever all the way with my number 1, because essentially all I did was debulk to make that next section. So now that I made it, I'm gonna go ahead and close it all the way and really stay a little bit lower within that section. I'm not going all the way up here anymore. I'm staying a little lower, and that's starting to fade it out. And that's really going to help me save some time and go through the steps a lot quicker. Understanding your steps is key when fading if you want to get faster and if you want to get better at doing fades. Since I already had a good understanding that this was a 0 and this was the number 1 with the lever closed, I already know that a half guard is easily going to be able to come in between those two and erase that line. And one of the main things that I do whenever I'm fading, I don't detail as I go. I wait till the very end to come back in detail. It's like my math teacher told me before, if you don't know the answer to a question, skip it and come back to it later. So now to finish off with the last section within this area, I'm gonna go in with the 1.5 guard with the lever all the way open as well. And this whole time, I really haven't been touching the front section, and you can see how it's already starting to fade into the front section by itself. So once again, with the 1.5 guard, I'm staying right behind that light section. So now that I created that with the 1.5 guard, I went ahead and closed it as well. And that pretty much started softening up that line in between the 1.5 and the number 1 guard. So now I simply have to get my number 1 guard again, and I'm going to be using the corner of the blade to go in between each individual hair. And just like that, the line is pretty much already gone. And like I said, it's still going to be little demarcations within the haircut, but I'm not really going to worry about them until I put the edge in. Then I'm going to go back and detail at the end. And just to really finish off blending into the top of his curls, I'm going in with the number 2 guard and with the lever all the way open. I'm just going to go off the head to kind of fade into him. Once again, I don't want to dip in because then I'm going to be taking off so much weight. So I'm literally going right off the head, letting his head shape guide me off of his head. So now to put in the edge, I'm simply tilting my clippers at a 90-degree angle, and I'm digging in a little bit and pulling away. I never like to push in to create the line. I like to set my blade on it and pull away. That way I don't run the risk of pushing into his hairline. And now that we're putting the edge in, you can begin to notice how leaving the front darker really helped us out a lot, because now that I'm putting the edge in, you can distinctly see it. Would have faded it all the way out here with all the sections, then the line wouldn't be as dark right now. And there you have it, guys. Like I said, you always want to make sure you look at your light and dark spots, and that way you can determine what area the fade has to go in. This area was super light, so I barely touched that area, but you can see how even though I barely touched that area, everything just matches evenly with it.